A very good day to you. This is, of course, the Chat Trap with me, Jamie, right here on Relax Radio. Now, here at Relax Radio, we're spelled without the X in Relax because we are all about that positivity. We're all about making sure that you stay as hyped up as possible all throughout the day. And we're about making sure that you are filled with positivity and that only good things come to you all throughout the day. And listen, if you want to keep yourself motivated, if you want to keep yourself updated, all you got to do is make sure that you keep in touch with us. And how you do that is through our social media. So, one thing that I want every single one of you to do is to connect with us on our social media, that is Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We go as Relax Radio, and we are there with you 24/7, 365. So, go on right ahead and connect with me. Let me know how your day is going so far. Let me know what's on your mind. Let me know what you think about what we're talking about, because yet again, this is all about conversation. So, make sure that you connect with me. Make sure that you have conversation with me because I would absolutely love to hear from you. With that being said, I also want to remind you that you could very, very simply download our app. It's available absolutely free of charge on iOS and Android. So make sure that you download our app on your phone right now. Today we're going to be talking about, we've been talking about a lot of different things, and everything has been so different and so interesting. And I just want to remind you that today, right now, the next couple of minutes actually, we're going to be talking about something that I feel like needs to be addressed, okay? And that's modern day relationships. And I feel like, especially being a millennial, I feel like there are so many trends, I feel like, or expectations that we follow in relationships in today's day and age. So I do want to talk about that for a bit. I want to share with you a few tips on how you could be a better person when you are engaged in a relationship as well. But before we move on to this conversation, I want to give you a little idea of what happens here at Relax Radio. So go right ahead and take a look at this video. All right, that's a little idea for you of what exactly happens here at Relax Radio. Again, I want to remind you that if you want to be a part of the show, if you want to share your thoughts and your opinions, I would love to hear from you. You could also simply call me on 078 Now, with that being said, let's get on to the topic of discussion for today, which is modern day relationships. Now, okay, let's be real. I feel like modern day relationships, just because we live in such an advanced age with so many different challenges and with so many different things to deal with, I feel like there is a lot more gray area in almost a strange kind of way. Okay, I think it's a lot less straightforward for sure. And also, I feel like there's a lot more awkwardness of modern dating and relationships, and all of us are very confused with the idea of romantic relationships or modern uh, dating in today's day and age or whatever, right? And I feel like, with regards to the previous generations, when I do talk to my parents and my grandparents, things were much more simpler, right? They always knew the road that they had to take, and they were almost expected to conform to that. And I feel like that exactly is what happened a few years back, a few generations back at least. And see, I feel like people who are in their late 20s or in the millennial generation right now have almost a choice paralysis, where we're like, oh, what exactly? See, I don't want to settle with this person because there's definitely got to be something better out there. Or simply because most of us are very engaged in other things, whereas relationships, or romantic relationships to say the least, are almost not exactly a priority in most of our lives. And just because of that, because of this notion that is going, especially with millennials, I feel like relationships in today's day and age are very confusing to say the least, and can be very less straightforward. Now, okay, before we get into the conversation, I want to remind you that true enough, every single one of you are going to have a different definition of love. And when you experience it for the first time, or maybe the second time, or the third time, your own definition of love, your own definition of relationships is definitely going to change. But that's okay. The idea of love in general is quite unexplainable, I would say, and only you know what you want love to be, especially when it comes to conveying your feelings to that special someone. Only you know what's suited for you best. And no matter what I tell you within the next few minutes, I want you to remember that you need to do whatever that suits you the best and whatever that makes you the happiest. But what I do want to do in the next few minutes is talk about a few meaningless trends, or some things that we follow in modern day dating or modern day relationships that are kind of, well, useless. Okay. And I think the first thing I do want to talk about is how love is too fancy today. Now, of course, I'm talking out of my personal experiences and everything that I've heard from my friends, from my coworkers, from my colleagues. And if this applies to you, I would like to know if it applies in your life as well. So go on right ahead, connect with me, and let me know what you think. But moving on to the concept of how a lot of millennials and how a lot of young people think that love is too fancy today. I feel like today love in itself has become super fancy. It's more about showing other people that you have this fairy tale love story, even if you barely sit and talk or discuss your emotions in reality. And I feel like love, especially, I think it also rather has a lot to do with social media, right? We are all about keeping the people around us updated with what's happening, and that essentially puts out this false image of our relationships. And we believe, and when we see other people living this fairy tale a relationship, we feel like we need to stick to these norms and that we need to stick to this idea of love. Now, love, sadly, is more of Instagram pictures and stories and Snapchat stories and WhatsApp stories or whatever. But it doesn't really matter if you know the individual sufferings or the heartaches of each other in the real world. So I want you to remember that not even the best relationship in the world is perfect, right? That's just this trend that we're following. That's just something meaningless that we're following in today's day and age. Everything has its imperfections. Obviously, if it's two human beings, you are going to have difference in opinions. That's what makes you beautiful. That's what makes you unique. But I guess what you need to understand is to adapt and how you need to compromise, especially when it comes to a relationship. Compromising is an absolute must. But firstly, I want you to remember that love isn't as fancy as Instagram stories show or social media portrays it to be. Now, a second thing I do want to talk about is love and virtuality. Love has become, or relationships in general, modern day relationships and the dating scene has become more about Friday night parties and Saturday night movie dates, or Sunday expensive dinner dates, I guess. And somewhere or the other, the technology has hampered the modern day relationships. I feel like, I don't know, that's my personal perspective. I guess you could call me a romantic, an old school romantic, but I truly feel like technology has definitely hampered the modern day relationships. Um, Hampered it in such a sense where sometimes I feel overwhelmed or overpowered. I have certainly had instances where relationships are overpowered by technology and by the virtual world. The virtual world in itself and its maintenance have conquered the real world surroundings and the truth, or the reality of things around us. Now, listen, I am not against uploading pictures with your partner on your social media accounts, but tell me, how often do we actually sit with our significant other and discuss each other's happiness while completely putting your mobile phones away or your laptops away? See, this is something that we have almost come to forget in our relationships. And that's what I want to remind you. Of course, I'm not perfect as well. This is something that I tend to do in my relationships as well. So make sure that you spice your relationships up. Make sure that you remove virtuality from your relationship and make sure that you spend time with each other. Now, the other thing is love or infatuation. Most of us are so engrossed with the virtual world or what love truly should be, that we forget what love can be. And we are almost always, I don't know, with me personally, and I feel like with the people I hang around with my colleagues, it's more of infatuation than it is love. We tend to romanticize people that are romanticized on social media. Like if you see somebody good looking on TikTok, you believe that that is exactly what you should look for in a relationship, when it's actually not true. And I feel like that essentially is where and why modern day relationships are so complicated and so much less straightforward than they should be. Now let's talk about something more important. I've told you how crazy it is to be in a modern day relationship, but I do want to talk about what you as an individual can do to better your relationship or to be the better person in the relationship that you're in. First of all, I want you to figure out your priorities. Listen, if you don't want to be in a relationship, that's perfectly fine. It's the 21st century. Nobody's forcing you to do anything. So I guess what you need to figure out for yourself is, what do I want at this point in life? Do I want to be committed to somebody else? Do I want to have to think about somebody else constantly? Or do I just want to figure out my life goals and pursue my life dreams? Figure out what you want firstly, because if you don't, you're not just being unfair to yourself, you're also being unfair to your significant other. Now the second thing I do want to remind you is to love yourself. Now I know I've spoken about this before, but one thing that I truly believe is, how exactly are you going to love another individual if you can't even seem to love and accept all your flaws and love yourself completely? Because this other human being has a complete set of whole other set of imperfections and a whole other set of flaws or whatever, and you're expected to love them for all of this, right? And you can't essentially do that if you don't love yourself. So I guess in this whole game of modern day relationships, one thing we forget is that we kind of forget where we as individuals come in a relationship. And I feel like relationships in general fail if you forget that you two are two different individuals, or whoever you are in a relationship with is two different individuals. So I do want to remind you to love and accept yourself. Figure out what you want first so that you can be a better person and you can accept relationships as it is. Now, that's a few tips from me on how to navigate modern day relationships. I know it's hard, take it one day at a time, but it's trial and error at the end of the day. Just try to move on, try to be the best possible version of yourself, and I promise you that life is going to seem much, much less complicated. Now, with that being said, it's about the time that I head on out of here, but don't worry because we got Tim coming on right up next, and he'll be talking to you about a lot of interesting things. So make sure that you keep it tuned right here on Relax Radio. I will catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. But up until then, have a blessed day ahead.